You see that? I'm wearing my hat. Let's go Mets. One more. If we win tonight, we sweep the Cubs. We enter the World Series, most likely against the Kansas City Royals. All right, let's go Mets. I'm pulling for you. Pulling for you, man. I've been a fan since freaking the mid-'80s. Darryl Strawberry days, the Doc Gooden days, the Ray Knight days, Tim Tuffle days, Keith Hernandez days, Howard Johnson days. You get the point. All right, anyway, guys, I wanted to start out with the comic book haul. We're on number 58, October 21st, 2015. You know, each week I get together. I talk about the books that I get from all the major publishers and small independent publishers. Speaking of which, last week I picked up a book from Amigo Comics, written by Torres, Straightjacket. This book has gone through the roof. People are now paying, according to comicbookinvest.com, up to $80. I've heard reports, specifically from Torres himself on Twitter, that people are asking for as much as $100 for this. I don't know if it's selling for that much. I've heard, according to comicbookinvest.com, there's been some buys for up to $65. So I wanted to let you guys know, if you're at your shop and you happen to come across this, you may want to pick it up. I'm not really into the whole speculating and flipping of books business. I did get this at cover price. It was the last one at my shop. I had no idea it was going to do anything like this. But if that's your thing, man, you know, if you need to flip books to support the habit, or you just like to make money, whatever. I'm not a big fan of scalpers, to be honest. If you've watched my channel, you've heard me rant about the whole amiibo business and that kind of shit going on. I'm not a big fan of that, but if that's what you have to do, you got to do it, right? There's only about 860 of these in print. So good luck by now if you can find it. So I'm going to be keeping it. I tried pre-ordering number 2 at my shop today, and I couldn't. So I don't even know if my shop is going to get issue 2. It's going to be a 4-part miniseries. I don't know. I'll have to see. I'll have to keep my fingers crossed. All right, anyway, to the haul. Let's start with DC, as always. Green Lantern, Lost Army, Cullen Bunn. This is going to end. I guess you would say this is the penultimate issue. Number 5. It's supposed to end at issue 6. The Green Lanterns are in another place and another time, another universe. In this universe, in this parallel dimension, wherever they are, the light of the emotional spectrum, the wellspring of light, is running dry as my contact lens, which is why I'm blinking funny. So please excuse me while I blink like crazy for the rest of this video. Sorry. Oh my God, it's dry. Anyway, they've been captured by these space pirates, and they are being drained of all their energy. They've gotten their rings stolen from them. The little squirrel character, B.P.R.D, has been sent on a mission. Some convenient writing by Cullen Bunn. This B.P.R.D squirrel is able to crawl into one of the vents, and lo and behold, he finds his rings, and they plan a daring escape to get out of what looks like a science cell. Is it or isn't it? Is this all just some hallucinatory experiment? I don't know. Anyway, the Lanterns have to team up with some old foes, Relic and Krona, in order to get out of this jam. And there's even an appearance of some Yellow Lanterns in here, and they have to team up with them as well. So everybody needs to get on the same page to get out of this. Everybody's energy is just getting sapped. There's a picture of the team, some of the Green Lantern Corps. You got Guy Gardner in there, and if you notice, he has red trim on his suit. He's got a red and a green ring. And there's also a scepter that has some special powers as well that I'm not going to reveal how and why that happens, but Kilowog's in possession of it. You know, the drill sergeant of the Green Lantern Corps. It's a pretty good book so far. I'm just wondering how they're going to end it so quickly. Also in this book, too, you get kind of tidbits of John Stewart's backstory. I guess his reimagined backstory as a military soldier in the Afghan war, the Afghan conflict. So it kind of gives you a little bit more insight as to why Jon Stewart is so stoic and brave. Okay? Alright, another DC comic, my only other one this week. Martian Manhunter, The Adventures of John Jones, the Martian Manhunter. The bench rider of the Justice League. I don't even know if he's a part of this Justice League nowadays. Was he in the New 52? I don't know. I know he's been a member before. This book's pretty crazy. There's tons of stuff going on in this book, and I'll be honest with you, it's a bit confusing. You know, I'm on number 5 with the monthly format. It's hard to remember everything. It's really a book that kind of suits, I would say, to trade weight. But if you look on the cover, you can kind of see all this morphing going on. Well, I guess it's revealed in this issue that Jon Jones is able to split himself up and assume different identities at the same time. You know, another one of the many powers of the Martian Manhunter, which is why he's criticized by many. You know, he has the same exact strength, if not maybe stronger than Superman. He has, like, telekinesis powers. He has mind control powers. Anything that you could pretty much think of, he has a power for. He does have an aversion to fire for some reason. Which is interesting. That seems to be his one major weakness. But this has just a lot of different stuff going on in here. Martian Manhunter, I guess, believed that he was kind of the last of the Martians, the last of his kind, and it turns out that he isn't. That I guess a lot of these Martians have been on the planet Earth for quite some time. As a matter of fact, I don't remember in issue number 3 or in issue number 4, the book kind of raised the question, you know, well, humans do suck, right? And humans do lots of terrible things to one another. Well, what if the worst atrocities that humans commit were committed because they were not human at all? They were actually Martians. Ho, ho, ha, ha. Kind of makes you think, don't it? I don't know. So those are kind of the questions that it asks. Also, it kind of raises questions about, like, conspiracy theories. I kind of had images of, you know, the whole reptilian universe that people think that, you know, people in high levels of government are actually reptiles in disguise. Yes, there's actually people that do think and believe this. And there's actually channels on YouTube that follow this. People put out channels on YouTube thinking that they're exposing high-level government officials as reptilians. I can't make this shit up. So it kind of presents a lot of issues with, you know, shadow governments and whatnot. There's a moon of Mars. I think it's called Phoebus, which means fear. Phobos? I don't know. I can't remember. Phobos. And it's about to crash on Earth. There's a mysterious man named Mold, who kind of reminds me of, like, just an old dude playing, like, Superman or Robin or something. He kind of gives out a signal to Aquaman, and Aquaman does make a bit of a cameo appearance in here. And Aquaman and Martian Manhunter have teamed up recently, you know, in the Aquaman books. They both kind of relate to one another because they're both kind of outsiders, outcasts a bit, so they kind of have that bond. But it's pretty. There's lots of threads in this book, man. Lots of loose threads. I am enjoying the artwork more and more by Burroughs. He's really coming into his own, I feel, in this book. There's Mr. Biscuits, who also, I believe, is the Martian Manhunter, one of the many personalities of the Martian Manhunter. That's the little girl that's been helping him all along. So, interesting book. Give it a try. But it's complicated, man. It's kind of hard for the monthly format. Alright, I got some Star Wars books as usual. All these Star Wars books are kind of leading to the Vader Down crossover event. We have Darth Vader number 11. Basically, the story continues with Darth Vader trying to find out more and more information about the whereabouts of Luke Skywalker. He has sent Dr. Aphra, who is like the female Tomb Raider, on missions to Naboo to kind of track down and get information. And also Darth Vader is being investigated by Sherlock Holmes, this guy Tanith, who, you know, is pretty much a Sherlock Holmes ripoff character. I'm not too impressed with that writing of this. Tanith is investigating the whereabouts of a massive stash of Imperial credits that Darth Vader stole to fund, you know, his army that he's building. So this guy Tanith is kind of hot on the trail of Darth Vader, and Darth Vader kind of has to do things here and there to kind of throw Tanith off his trail, which is kind of cool. They do kind of have some major cliffhanger, nail-biter moments in this. I did actually read through this whole book before I did the haul, and Gillian writes some pretty good cliffhangers in this, and I feel like that this book, again, is picking up some speed after reading this issue. We are introduced to an information broker by the name of, what the heck's his name? The Ante, of all things, you know, as in up the ante. The Ante has a ton of information, I guess, about everything. I don't know, think maybe Shadow Broker in Mass Effect. He's this sad-looking Scream mask guy right there. Dr. Aphra finds out about him and pays a visit, and she hands over those stolen credits that Tanith is looking for to the Ante, and he reveals the location, spoiler alert, of where Luke Skywalker is. Tanith also finds out about who the Ante is and tells Lord Vader about it, but they're going to see the Ante just to find out about the stolen credits. Anyway, paths get crossed, and people may get double-crossed. And I'm not going to say who does what to who, but things get mighty interesting on this planet where the Shadow Broker is. And we do get some major twists and turns and finally some good gun battle action. So check it out. Pretty cool. All right. I actually had to pick up 2 issues of The Shadowed Empire, Star Wars The Shadow Empire. I had to get number 3 because this came out last week and I missed it. I didn't know. I didn't realize that they were going to be releasing this so quickly. And then the very next week we have Shattered Empire number 4, which is actually another surprise for me, is the conclusion of this series, because every Star Wars miniseries so far, such as, you know, Lando, Princess Leia, and now Chewbacca, have all been 5 issues. For some reason, they're only doing this one in 4 issues. It's basically a bridger story between the Return of the Jedi. Takes place right after the events of the Battle of Endor, leading up into the latest episode of Star Wars, Episode 7. You're introduced to some new characters. Shara Bay and her husband. They're on a mission. Shara Bay is on a mission with Princess Leia. She's serving as an escort for Princess Leia back to Naboo to help Princess Leia help the Queen of Naboo dismantle these satellites that have been placed all over Naboo's orbit. These satellites are going to create like level 5 or 6 hurricanes, disastrous hurricanes. It might actually be like level 10 in this universe. Just ridiculously powered hurricanes. Anyway, Shara's got to help Princess Leia with that. Shara's husband is off on a mission with Chewbacca and now General Solo to take down a rebel outpost that's way the hell out in the middle of nowhere. Basically, the interesting thing is that, yes, the Emperor has been defeated. If you know, if you've seen Return of the Jedi, I don't need to really tell you what happens in that. Anyway, the Emperor's dead, and it is slowly, the news is trickling across the Empire. But the Empire, the army is vast, the army is huge. There's still a lot of people in that Empire that want to, hold on to their power and are not letting this go. So it's kind of interesting to show, the whole process of that. So I'm looking forward to, wrapping that up. The artwork in here in issue number 3 is split up between Marco Ciccato, probably said that wrong, and Angel Unzenta. And the artwork is great. I mean, look at Chewie here. Chewbacca doing his thing, clearing house with some Imperials. So it's a nice mix of the old and the new. There's Shara and Princess Leia. Can you pick out who's who? There's the Queen of Naboo. So I'm really looking forward to wrapping this up. First 2 issues have been really good. And check it out. So you can actually, the good thing is my comic book store had multiple issues of 1 through 4. So if you just absolutely can't wait for the trade, just pick up all 4 issues today. All right, I got 3 books from Dark Horse. First, I got B.P.R.D, Hell on Earth, number 136. This is the start of the last story arch. I'm not really sure how long this final arch is going to be. I think it's only 5 parts. Last week, I reported that it was 10 or 12, that it was going to take a year. Now I'm hearing it's only 5, so I'm not really sure. There's lots of crazy stuff going on in here in this issue. Giant monsters, the Ogdru Hem, have been popping up like crazy all over the Earth, in the Midwest in particular, of all places, like Kansas. But there's a meteor, a giant meteorite asteroid that may be an Ogdru Jihad. And the professor in this story is having visions. Do you see it there? That is on a crash course, a crash collision for Earth. And if that happens, it's just cataclysmic. It's the end of the Earth as we know it. This Ogdru Jihad, I guess, is causing monsters of unprecedented size and girth to be popping up and appearing all over Earth. Unfortunately, man's weaponry right now seems to be powerless against it. But if you've been reading in previous story arches in this series, you know that there's an armor, the Vril armor, that, God, I cannot believe I cannot remember his name. There's a Vril armor that has been taken on by the German, oh my God, the German ghost character. I'm totally drawing a blank here. Johann Strauss. Oh my God, I can't believe I just forgot that. Johann Strauss has exchanged his containment suit for the Vril armor. This special Vril armor that's been dormant since World War II for like decades. And it's like a super powered weapon. It's like Iron Man on steroids, folks. Anyway, he teams up with our favorite fire starter, Liz Sherman, and they start wreaking havoc on these monsters, as you can see. And there's the wonderful coloring of Dave Stewart. Glad I can remember his name. And it kind of just takes us through the whole process of these guys, you know, ripping through monsters. But there's a lot more. There's way more to that. There's like 3 or 4 other storylines going on in this too. So I just kind of broke it down, the main gist. But, you know, that's it. After, you know, this story arch, I guess this B.P.R.D, the Hell on Earth, is going to end after like 140-something issues. So I'm hoping they release the omnibuses of it. All right, a new book by Dark Horse, Steam Man. Now, I don't know if this is going to appease steampunk fans. This takes place in 1899, okay? The story is written by Mark Allen Miller. He's done a lot of work with Clive Barker on Clive Barker's Hellraiser series. Actually, Clive Barker gives a ringing endorsement for this book, a must-read. It has artwork by Peter Kowalski, who I love. He did a lot of work on Boom Comics' Nightbreed, and then he also did some work on The Terminal Man, Dynamite comics. Great coloring in this as well by Kelly Fitzpatrick. I believe she's also doing, Death Head, which I'll be talking about in just a moment. Just great rustic tones and browns and oranges. Takes place in 1899. Think War of the Worlds meets Pacific Rim. I guess 4 years prior, the Earth was invaded by these War of the World-looking tentacle creatures, these monsters. And in order to combat these monsters, they had to erect a giant steam man who is huge, who is multiple stories tall, and he looks like a cross between Abraham Lincoln and Frosty the Snowman. Manned by a crew, Captain William Beadle, a boxer, a Native American tracker, and an engineer. So it's kind of a interesting cast of characters. No women. Someone contact Anita. Let Anita Sarkeesian know there's not a main female protagonist in this. Anyway, it turns out that this steampunk man, there's one of the creatures, kind of cleans house against these Martians. And there's some scale to show you how big. I'm getting a terrible glare to show you how big the steampunk man is. He's huge. Well, anyway, he kicks ass against these aliens. There you go. Pacific Rim style. And the focus of the Steam Man's mission turns from, alien hunter to monster hunter, and apparently there's this vampire in town known as the Dark Rider. And it kind of turns into like a horror mystery. Here's the Dark Rider kind of munching on a corpse. And classic Peter Kowalski-looking, eerie-looking faces of fear and fangs. He draws some great evil-looking faces. That's what I love about his artwork. And I'm glad to have a book again that he's a part of. So check it out, The Steam Man. I'm not sure if it's going to be a limited series or an ongoing series. I'm really not sure. I didn't do much homework on it, but Steam Man. All right. Number 4, Death Head. That's the Plague Doctor with the mask on, that bird-looking mask. As you can see, he's pulling the strings, folks. Pulling the strings of the people. There's a family, okay? They were camping out in the woods. They stumble across this old abandoned town. Within this old abandoned town, they find a mask. And a whole bunch of other crap ensues and viciousness. But essentially, they find this mask. They get out of trouble. They bring this mask home. And this mask has properties that causes them to have hallucinations. Causes them to be psychotic. There's a child, a young boy in this story, and he is befriended by a young girl. And as you can see, she's floating over the canal. She's a ghost. She is a ghost. So this issue gives her backstory, which happens way, way back, 1883. It kind of shows what happened to her. How did she die? Like, what were the issues? Apparently, there's connections with this Plague Doctor. Looks like a zombie roamed into town. So it kind of talks about that. The father in the last episode got drawn to a town. He had visions of a town with a lighthouse. He goes there. He meets the lighthouse operator. The lighthouse operator ends up being the brother of this Plague Doctor. The brother has kind of like a break, psychotic break, and he ends up shooting himself, of all things. I kind of was a little turned off by that. I was kind of like, why would this guy all of a sudden just flip because he's meeting, this father? Anyway, father leaves the lighthouse. When he gets out of the lighthouse, he is confronted by all these townfolk that are in World War II gas masks, of all things. So it was really like a cliffhanger ending. Like, why are all these people in these gas masks? Here they are. I don't know if you can see. My camera is horrible. There we go. They're in these gas masks. So I hope it starts to tie up some loose ends surrounding that. Then the mother is having visions without even having the mask on. Usually a person has to be wearing the mask. Like the boy started wearing the mask, and he started seeing things through the eyes of the plague doctor. It was really interesting. It was really, really interesting. But the mother starts having hallucinations while she's driving home from work. And she hasn't had the mask on, which is interesting. As you can see, she's driving home, and you can see that she's seeing zombie faces. So it's just a great book in that sense. I hope they kind of tie these things together a little bit more. I mean, it's a little disjointed. There's also a teenage daughter in the story who's kind of like, you know, tropish, like rebellious. She goes to Catholic school and does like mushrooms while at school and sees like flying nuns and stuff. So it'll be real interesting to see how this gets pieced further together. I'm not even sure how many issues it's going to be. I think it's 6. So, you know, you may want to trade wait for it at this point. All right, Image Comics, we have Beauty, number 3. And in this issue, the beauties are dying at an even more rapid clip. Basically, imagine if you contract a disease that makes you become beautiful, but it happens at a very, very heavy, heavy price. And it's basically like a detective buddy story, too. There's a male and female detective team up. There's government corruption. There's a senator involved. There's backwater dealings. It's a pretty fun book. It's a pretty fun book. I don't want to spoil a lot. In this issue, there is a ton of nudity, and I'm going to cover up that nipple. But, oh, maybe I didn't. But in the first few pages, there is a ton of nudity. And you kind of have like this shady serial killer looking guy who pays this woman, this very beautiful woman, who has been inflicted with the beauty, to just kind of lay down on the bed and fondle. It's really, really creepy. Kind of reminded me of Ted Bundy. You know, if you ever read stuff about the serial killer Ted Bundy, he actually, you know, women that were with him reported that he used to enjoy having the women during sex pretend they were dead. Like eerie, like necrophiliac kind of stuff. And it kind of, you know, leafing through that, it just gave me a real uneasy, unsettling feeling, and it made me think of Ted Bundy. So I highly recommend this book. It's kind of an interesting social commentary. Jeremy Hahn, Jason Hurley doing the story, Jeremy Hahn doing the art, coloring by John Rauch. I'm not familiar with him. But it's a solid book. It's a solid book. I'm recommending it. We have to learn who this person is. Let's have some fun. He has something to do with the fondling of that woman. And the mystery of the beauty continues to unravel. All right, and finally, I got another independent book from Dynamite Comics. I couldn't believe it. This came out apparently on October 6th, and I missed it, but how the fuck was I supposed to know? Because the last time an issue of The Devlers came out, written by Joshua Hale Falcoff, drawn by Matt Triano, the last time issue 6 came out, I think was like beginning of the summer, and then the issues before that were even more. Case in point, I started collecting in September of 2014, and I was buying this comic. This is the 7th and final issue. I was buying this comic at the start of my new comic book journey. So September 2014 to now, 7 issues. What the fuck? Like, I know that independent comics have challenges, and I want to support independent comics, but with a release schedule like that, how the fuck can you remember or keep up? So apparently this came out 2 weeks ago. I didn't even know it. What I remember is that this is a story about 7 different exorcists of 7 different faiths taking on the devil. And the last time when I was reading this, the atheist character of the Devlers, Malcolm, ends up having a confrontation with God of all people. And the way the last issue ended was Malcolm, the atheist, was taking a piss, literally. I don't mean like in British terms taking a piss, ragging on, making fun of God. I mean, he was literally taking a piss on God. So I was like, ooh, that's a little, are you kind of just trying to shock for shock's sake or what? What statement are you trying to make here? Well, that confrontation continues in here. And Malcolm and God, as you can see, God is, pee dripping off his feet, and he's giant, right? He's a giant God. Malcolm and God, who looks very much like Jesus Christ, end up having a pretty thought-provoking question. And, Malcolm kind of asks questions that a lot of us ask, when trying to believe things about God or wrapping our head around God. If there is a God, why do these horrible things in the world happen? Why are there, despots like Hitler? Why are there natural disasters? Why all this pain and misery? And God kind of kicks it back to him and gives him some answers. There's also some good confrontations between Malcolm and the Devil character. And I must say that the Devil and the artwork in this is much, much better. One of the complaints that I did have about earlier issues of this was that Triano was kind of just making these like big red and maroon blotches, like a Worcester test that you couldn't even make out. This is much, much better. Much, much better. I mean, not maybe a little bit better now that I'm looking at it. But it'll be interesting to see how this ends. How do the Devlers end up defeating the Devil? Are they going to leave open ends to make another story possible? Who knows? I just got to say, it's insane, the release schedule on here. Hopefully they'll work on that next time. So Dynamite Comics, I haven't really bought anything other than this or Terminal Hero from them. So hopefully the Devlers will continue in another place in another time. And basically, I'm going to have to read through the first 6 issues again to really get a gist of what's going on here. I mean, it's just insane. All right, so let's pick a cover of the week and wrap it up, dudes. Let's see here. Cover of the week. Ooh. Cover of the week. These Star Wars ones look too much like the same. I think I'm going to go with Steam Man, of all things. Cover of the week, Steam Man. Take a look. Taking on the War of the Worlds. And I'm going to work on the glare of my camera next time because it's pretty awful. So check it out. Steam Man. I'll let you guys know how it goes, alright? Next week. Alright, guys. Let me know what you're liking, what you're disliking. And I hope to see you comment on my video. Thanks for watching, as always. And I'm going to try to answer my comments from my last couple videos in the next few days. Alright, peace! Have a good day. Go Mets! Bye!